Kill Bill Volume 2. I walked out of Kill Bill 1, not sure I wanted to go back to see Kill Bill 2, but it had gotten such good reviews that I was curious to see the conclusion, so I thought I'd give it a try. And I did enjoy it, actually. For those of you who have seen the movie, and it got a late release in Japan, so by now I'm sure everyone who was planning on seeing it has seen it, well, remember that unlike the first volume, the second one did not have such a prominent Japanese theme. There were a couple throwaway references, though, which seemed to be appreciated judging by the laughs of the Japanese audience I saw the movie with. Sorry, I should have said this at the beginning. This is a scripted movie review series, which is where I kind of go back in the blog archives to find my old reviews. This one was from 2004, back when that movie came out. I then, following on in what I wrote back in 2004, I then go on to get something terribly wrong, so I should explain this a bit. When I was living in Japan, I've always kind of been a retro buff. Like, I like old stuff, old music, old comic books, kind of whatever. When I was in Japan, I really got into old Japanese music. Japanese music from the 60s and 70s. And yeah, why not the 50s? I would have been interested in the stuff in the 50s, but it was very hard to find. I think maybe because the occupation and stuff like that, there wasn't a lot of, actually, I don't know what I'm talking about. Point being, I was interested in old Japanese music. So I would go to kind of not old CD stores, modern CD stores. I would go to CD stores, but then I would go to the retro section and kind of look through the oldies. And there was, I was in the oldies section. I think this was at one of those record shops. Now, records were kind of out of fashion even in 2004, but, collectors still got them. So I was in the oldies section in a record shop, and there was a record from a group called the 5-6-7-8s. I just kind of assumed they were one of the older groups. I hadn't heard of them before, but I thought, all right, I don't know everything. So I thought, okay, one of the groups I've never heard of. And then they showed up in Kill Bill 2. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, he actually got one of the old school Japanese bands from like the 1960s to be in this movie. And I thought, oh, wow, they look quite young still. I thought, Hollywood camera tricks, lots of makeup, soft lens on the camera, he's pulling back, whatever. And so I wrote that up kind of in the blog, and I was completely wrong. This is 2004, so I think kind of still before Wikipedia really kind of came into its own. But now that we have Wikipedia, I've kind of looked them up, and they're actually not an old band. Well, I guess they are now, because now it's 2018. But they started out in the 90s. They were kind of a contemporary band at the time, and they had this retro thing going. So like they would kind of dress retro-y, their albums would kind of come out with retro covers, and so like in the CD store or the record store, they had gotten kind of put in with the other oldies. And so I thought they were like a legitimate old band from the 1960s. But they're a newer band that had a retro thing going on trying to imitate the 1960s. So I wrote here in my blog, oh, how cool it is that he got this old group from the 1960s, but I was completely wrong about that. And that's all I've got for this one. So another kind of short movie review here.